We're going to put in some cool plants around here. The plants that we're using are for coastal, windy conditions. This is important because a lot of plants will not survive on the coast purely because of the salt and also because of the extreme windy conditions. That's why it's important that we follow some certain gardening principles which are going to make sure that our plants will survive. Right, folks, we've added a bit of compost into here and a bit of potting soil mix just to adjust the slope a bit because it was a little bit steep. I don't want it going down too much and disappearing off. And now I get to start putting in the plants. So let's have a look. Garth, what have you got there for me?
I got a nice fern there for you, Tanya.
Gorgeous. Okay, let's talk about this little guy. Now, Blechnum is a beautiful fern. Doesn't get very tall, only gets about 60 centimeters in height, loves being in the shade and loves the tropics. So anywhere where you're hot and humid, this baby is gonna love it. And gets a really gorgeous, kind of typical fern-like stem, but what's most important is that the stem doesn't get too tall. It's more about the softness and the gracefulness of the actual fern frond. So when you're planting this guy, remember, ferns traditionally live in the forests and the forest floors of tropical jungles. So we want to emulate that. And we want to make sure that the same conditions are there, which means loads of compost and loads of good mulch. One of the plants I've chosen to use just behind the bench, just to give us a bit more depth, zone it off a little bit, is this gorgeous beast. This is called an Ixora. And that is the wonderful flower. Unfortunately, this guy has just started its flowering, and ultimately they form big Catherine wheels of flowers, and they come in many different colors. You get yellows, you get oranges, you get red. They're vibrant, they're tropical, they're sultry, and they're so easy to look after. You get little dwarf Ixoras, and then you get the larger ones like this guy that's probably going to get to 1.5 meters. So ultimate growing height will be right up here, and it'll form a nice mound, a nice rounded shrub, which is going to give us a bit of screening off for the bench. Another gorgeous plant that I've chosen, which is perfect for coastal conditions, are these little guys here. They're called anthuriums. Now, these plants, they've hybridized into this new variety, which is the dwarf variety. You'll find them available in many shops and garden centers, sold as a little pot plant. Now remember, if you've had that little pot plant in your home and it's starting to not look so happy, take it and plant it out into the garden in a nice shaded spot. Anthuriums just do so well in the deep shade. That's what they love. They love the tropical heat because that's where they come from, right near the equator. So these little guys are just going to do a great job. They come in pinks, whites, you even get a green. But I've chosen this red mixed up with a pink. Going to look lovely. As with all planting, we want to make sure that we've got a higher plant slightly at the back, which is our Blechnum, coming down into our dwarf anthuriums, and then we're wanting a ground cover which will be able to cover this area. And I've chosen this beautiful little ground cover called Selaginella. Loves growing in the shade, grows like a weed, but don't tell anybody. And once again, needs hot, tropical, humid conditions. If you live in a frost area, folks, don't plant it. It will die with the first frost, and it probably won't come back again. Right, folks, plants have been planted, and we're in our final bit. Now, because this is a woodland garden, we want to emulate that, and in all other circumstances, I would probably use pathway, I would probably use pavers or gravel, but because I want it to look just like it is in the woodland, I'm just scattering a bit of bark, nothing specific, just in the area where we're going to be walking, because remember, this Selaginella is eventually just going to grow over it and cover it all beautifully. Our bench is 900 long. That's the seat.
Okay.
For our derrieres.
Right.
So, ultimately, we'd like to leave a bit of a gap on either side for our legs to go in. Now, because this is inside a garden, we don't have to concrete them in. Ain't nobody going to steal this bench. So we're literally going to be stamping them in. So let's get a measurement over here.
I think Tanya, we make it 700.
700, so we got
For the
100
two
on
legs.
either side.
100 inside.
So there's a nice overhang. Don't put the legs right at the end of the bench because then it just looks like a stompy squash thing. Folks, what's most important when you are digging these holes is that they are parallel with each other. All right, we place it in the middle of the hole. The first one is not critical in terms of your spacing. If you had measured correctly and you dug correctly according to your spacing, the middle of the hole should be just perfect. At this point, we want the spirit level because we need to make sure that this is level, because all your groundwork, if it's not level, then you're going to have a problem. Let's just put some soil underneath here. Have a look. All right, to make sure that it's nice and level, just take that off, give it a bit of a tap, secures it well into the ground below. Let's take a look there, Garth. Oh, I'm happy.
Perfect.
Right, we need to do the sides as well. Lovely. Okay, use your rubber mallet again, and you're just going to pound it in here. Are we level, Garth?
Yes.
How are we doing?
Perfect.
Spot on, beautiful. Excellent. Right, first leg is in. Let's move across to the second one. Don't just put it in. You got to make sure that your distance is correct. Let's get that tape measure there again, Garth. Let's check this baby. Spot on, Garth.
Yep, that's fine.
Last check to see nothing's moved across the top again. Love it when
I'm
a
happy
plan
with that.
comes together. Right, legs are in, secure, not going to move. It's now time to play in the garden.